Welcome back to the Sales Revolution. I'm Ingrid Maynard, the founder and managing director of The Sales Doctor, and I'm joined by Sarah Cincotta. Now, before I do her introduction today, I just wanted to let you know that this is somebody who I absolutely admire. She's a young woman who is really, I think, just at the start of what I think will be an incredibly successful career. And I was introduced to Sarah by a mutual contact, and it was an absolute delight from the very beginning. And I knew as soon as I had that conversation with Sarah that I really wanted to have her on this podcast. And the reason that I've got Sarah on here is because she's done a really deep dive into a particular industry segment, which is property management. And even though she knows that segment inside and out, I have no doubt that today there'll be some jewels that anyone in business development can take away from this. But I'm really curious about some of the insights that she has to share, particularly now with what we're seeing in the market. So let me, without further ado, introduce Sarah. So Sarah Cincotta is the founder of Rise with Sarah Cincotta, a mentorship service that elevates the performance, purpose and passion of property industry business development managers and the organisations they represent. As a mentor, speaker and award-winning real estate business development manager, Sarah leads with her heart as she challenges the status quo. She is a passionate advocate for the people around her and truly believes that with the right guidance, you can build a meaningful career that you love. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Ingrid. It makes me, I just got emotional because I'm usually the one interviewing other people. And when you hear, first of all, it was just so beautiful. And you know that I've got so much respect for you and I've only known you a short amount of time. But, I just got, really emotional. Maybe that's the hormones too, which we'll talk about later. But that was such a lovely introduction. Thank you. And I'm so honored to be here with you today.
Well, I'm just really grateful that you can. I know what a busy woman you are and you've got a lot to achieve in the next 3 weeks. So, yes. And then beyond that, but we'll get to that. Sarah, when we first started speaking, it became very obvious to me that there were so many synergies between the two of us. Obviously, the types of focuses that we have for our individual practices, but I also found that our career paths were quite similar as well. Now, you are considerably younger than I am, and as I said in the intro, you're at the start of what is proving to be a very successful career in sales thought leadership, specialising in the property management industry. I'd love you to walk us through your career journey to date. And as you do that, I'm interested in hearing what you see as the signposts that have led you to where you are today.
It has been quite a journey. So I am now 35 years old, just full transparency, putting it out there. And I actually embarked on my entrepreneurship journey 2 years ago. However, I was an employee whilst running a business at the same time before I decided to go all in. But before that, I have had many different careers. When I was 18, my first job was actually a receptionist at a real estate agency, and I was actually studying to be a makeup artist at the same time. So I was already in that entrepreneurial mindset from, I would say, quite a young age. And I grew to love the exploration for different businesses, and I then went on to do working for a recruitment agency. I done my 2 years of a hairdressing apprenticeship because I thought, it would be great to have makeup and doing the hair at the same time. Just my business mindset, that didn't work out. I worked for an accounting firm, and then I got into retail. So I actually worked in retail for quite a long period of time, and I think it was from working in retail where I really found my passion for people and working with people, because when you step back from the role or your day to day, it's really when you can realize the impact that you can have on someone's life. Okay. And when I was working in retail at the time, I was working for a menswear company called Man to Man. They went under quite a long time ago, but I was helping guys feel good about themselves. I was helping men that were getting married, that were literally going to be walking down the aisle to their beautiful partners in a suit that I had fitted them out for. And it was really that mindset and that perspective of just helping people with that genuine and I guess authentic nature.
Yeah.
I think though for me I was always an opportunist, and I've always been very ambitious. Now, I knew that Man to Man was going to be going under, and I decided to study at the same time. And someone actually planted the seed, Ingrid, and they said, Sarah, I think you'd be really good in real estate.
Wow.
And to be honest, Ingrid, it hadn't crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of people that do property management or, get to this point in their career say that they accidentally fell into it.
Yes.
So I was one of those people. But the real, I suppose, key signpost, I would say, is my passion for real estate. So very quickly, when I started my studies, was I had a genuine interest in property management. And I really immersed myself into the industry that I worked for. And I was constantly learning. I was always investing in my development. I would say I was very quick to be innovative and adapt. Like back then, this is going a decade ago now, but digital marketing, social media wasn't really a thing. But as a property manager, I was the one who was putting myself out there, very young in age and very new to the career. And then I developed that hands-on experience. So that's another crucial thing I think has played a pivotal role in my journey, is that hands-on experience and not afraid to get my hands dirty and doing those tasks that we might not enjoy at the time, but we know that it's going to help with that next level of growth.
Amazing.
Right? And there was challenges along the way. So when I was a property manager, I actually developed a benign tumour on my liver, and I had to get 50% of my liver removed. Now, I was 29 years old at the time. I was managing 186 properties end to end, which in hindsight is quite a lot for now. It's a bit different in terms of how things are structured. I was very highly stressed. I was burnt out. And I actually had too much estrogen that was developing in my body because I had been on the pill for a very long time. So stressed, still quite young, ambitious, but I literally had my body shut me down. And this was, I suppose, one of the first moments where I discovered a rebirth, Ingrid, is what I call it. So we all have choices that we make. And it was, I needed to look at what was happening, what my body was telling me, and I needed to make a decision. So being the opportunist that I was and that ambitious person, I went out and I looked for opportunities, and that's when I went into the business development management space and that more sales space, because I had my superpower, resilience.
Right.
So through that challenge in my life was a new superpower of mine, which was resilience. And I think when it comes to sales, Ingrid, it's, we can get knocked down 100 times, but you got to get back up 100 times because otherwise you won't keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one for me is the relationships. So I'm very much big on now through my career as well is my network, the relationships that I've formed, the people that I continuously surround myself with have helped me with my career progression and also pushed me to become a better version of myself all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I'm gonna do a bit more of a deeper dive on your network and relationships, but there were a few things that really stood out for me. I want to go right back to, the early days of your career where you were in retail. You were working in man to man, and I remember when man to man was, a place where a lot of young men also used to go on a Friday night to get their gear to go out, for the weekend. It was one of those stores, I think, where a lot of men felt safe shopping.
Yeah.
They knew that they were going to be a little bit elevated. It was still affordable, and it was still, yeah, it was a good shop. It was a shame that that finished. But one of the things that you said there really stood out to me. It was then that you realised that you could have an impact on other people's lives. And I thought, wow. So that was the first thing that you identified, that I thought, yeah, I think that that's the privilege that we have in sales, absolutely. The other thing that stood out to me with what you said was that you have a passion, and I think that that word passion is something that comes through time and again in your language. You talked about a passion for people, which again, I think you have to have in sales. I can't imagine how people have what you call that resilience, that ability to keep going if you don't love people, because it's one of those industries where you have to consistently front up again and again and again with a variety of all different sorts of people. And if you don't genuinely like them in the first place, I don't think that it's possible to continue to do that. You must hate yourself at a different level to do that, unless you really love people. But here's the other thing. You said that, and this is what a lot of people don't have in them, you've identified all through your career what you're going to need to double down on in order to realise that next level of growth. Can we just talk about that a little bit more? Because I think that you've got some of the secrets that other people might be able to unlock. So for salespeople who are listening, business development managers who are listening, account managers who are listening, what are some of the things, like what was it about you that made you recognise this is an opportunity for me? If I work hard at this now, that's going to unlock that next level of growth, that next career opportunity, that next doorway is going to open for me.
I think, Ingrid, it's listening to those thoughts that come up in your mind, right? Because we have so many thoughts, and you, like I said before, you have a choice. So it's that fixed mindset versus growth mindset. It's you can stay here, be comfortable, be complacent, keep earning the money that perhaps you might on, or you can push yourself, challenge yourself, set some healthy goals for your life. And I am big on goals, Ingrid. I do like setting goals. So for me, it's like, what do I want to achieve? So if I've got this goal and I kick that goal and it's here, then what is next for Sarah? Going back to that next goal that I'm able to achieve, that means that I am stepping into a evolved version of myself. And I think that is the most beautiful thing that we can continue to do as humans. And that's one of my biggest messages that I share with my business is evolution. It's part of my branding. The E for RISE stands for evolution. So it's knowing that we have a choice, that every single thing that we do today can be paving the way for our life, our future, our success, our relationships, for our tomorrow.
Sarah, that's absolutely magnificent. And I love that word evolution, because I think that if we are growing, we are evolving. It's not that we transform into someone completely different, but we become more of who we're capable of becoming over time. You say that goals are very important to you. Have you always been that way, or was there a time, in that career journey that you've just laid out for us, where that was awakened for you?
Oh, I didn't always have the awareness of how to set goals and achieve goals, because there's definitely a process behind how we do that. And a lot of sales agents, I think, or should be aware of that technique that you can use. However, for me, and it's funny, my mum always says it, she's like, Sarah, throughout your whole life, whatever you wanted, you put your mind to it and you achieved it. And so back then it wasn't necessarily I had a goal, but it was if I wanted something, I made it work, Ingrid. It was like nothing was too hard, or that promotion that I wanted to get. It was just, I don't know, it's, I guess, a bit of woo and science, right, mixed together. You know, putting it out there to the universe, going, I want this, and actually doing the things and showing up and making that commitment every single day so that it does happen. So it wasn't really a goal, but it was more like, I want that. What do I need to do to achieve that? But now it's very much, you know, I believe we are abundant as individuals. So it's more so, you know, how do I want to live my life? How do I want to have an impact on people? What's the community that I want to be involved in? Like those priorities, I think, change as well as we get older.
Oh my goodness, Sarah, this is just magnificent. Okay, then you had this huge thing that happened for such a young person, 29, to have a tumour on you. Did you say your liver?
Yes.
Yeah, unbelievable. And instead of, which would have been understandable, instead of it kind of knocking you down and stopping you in your tracks, you reframe that in your mind as an opportunity for rebirth. And you know that now that resilience is a superpower. And so you decided to use that opportunity as a reflection point to say, okay, where am I at in my career? And what are all of the things that I bring to the world? What are my gifts? What are my experience sets? What are my talents? What do I want to realise for the rest of my career? And then again, you made that happen, which I absolutely love. Again, that mindset of being able to take a very challenging situation and turn it into an opportunity. What's the process that you go through in order to do that? Because I suspect that even though that's a huge one, you know, that kind of phenomenon is hopefully a once in a lifetime kind of event. But I'm sure it's not the only setback that you've had, and I suspect that you've lent on that ability that you have to constantly reframe it as an opportunity and to seek out what that means for you next.
Yeah, very interesting. Another podcast I was on, someone actually asked me, do you think that we need to experience like hardship to be able to find that like next level or you know, that lesson? And I said, not necessarily. However, by me experiencing what I did, allowed me to really think about who I am as a individual. And sometimes we don't just put ourselves in those situations to be able to do that. So I would say I was that situation that happened to me was a blessing, and people would look at it like that. But if I hadn't have gone through what I had gone through, then I probably or could have stayed on the trajectory that I had. So it's coming in that moment, though. There were many things, yes, like you said, in my life, but I had also witnessed other people. My mum had breast cancer. I saw that, what she went through coming out of the other side. I like to view it now as a spiral. Thanks to my partner, he actually taught me this one that I use now. It's typically we only celebrate ourselves when we are, you know, on a high, right? Or when good things are happening in our life, and, you know, let's celebrate. We're doing all of these good things. Yeah, like we're on that high. And then when we have something that perhaps puts us in a state where we're feeling a bit low vibrational, or yes, it's a challenge, or we've got, you know, a bit of sadness or things like that coming up, we tend to really get stuck in that that place. And sometimes it's really difficult for people to then maneuver back up to experience that high. So what I really had to do when I was experiencing what I did through my surgery and rehabilitation was, this won't last, right? Yeah. So what I was experiencing in that moment or day to day, it won't last. Again, though, it's that choice, Ingrid, that I had. Yeah. Are you going to get up and go for that walk tomorrow? Because you know if you're going to get up and go for that walk, you're going to recover more quickly. Yeah? So I think it was just having the awareness and being really present with yourself and asking yourself those questions.
Yes.
You know, every day, what are you going to do today? Like 1% better, like make that choice. And that's what I had to do in that moment. And that's something that carries through and that I teach my clients is you have complete control of the trajectory of your life.
Yes.
Complete control. How you show up, how you talk to people, the people that you surround yourself with. If you're going to invest in more education, right? How are you going to show up to the world today? Are you going to be happy? Are you going to be sad? Are you going to spread kindness? Are you going to say hello to people on your walk in the morning while you're holding your warm cup of coffee? Like all of these small things, it just comes back to awareness, right? Being present with yourself and just being a good human individual too. And I think that's so important when we're looking at our lives and what we want, how we can contribute to others. It all starts with us, Ingrid.
Yeah, it really does. That's really all we've got control over is ourselves, our attitudes, our actions, our thoughts. You know, believe it or not. I mean, we can't necessarily control the first thought that comes in, but we can control what we do with the next one. And I love what you said about, you know, that point. The point of power is in the present moment, because it absolutely is. And I also love what you said before about it will pass. And I think sometimes it's easy for us to remember that when things are going badly, you know, that it will pass, because it's a bit of a soothing thing to remember. Okay, so I won't always be here. It'll help me get through. But equally, everything passes, good, bad, and indifferent. And
that's right.
That's a good reminder, to come back to that present moment. All right, so I want to turn now to the property industry, because like any industry, you know, it's got its own culture, it's got its own speak, it's got its own who's who, you know, and way of selling. And I imagine that property management is almost like its own little industry within that industry.
Yeah, in real estate for sure, yeah. I think... look, as much as, and it's actually sad, Ingrid, that it is like the perception is like that. Like you've got real estate and then there's all of these different categories or niches. And I understand it. Like you've got some offices, they just do sales. You've got some offices, they just do commercial. You've got some offices that just do property management. And I think you'll see more of that happen, because people want specialists, right? We don't just want a property manager, we want specialists. So in terms of the industry, you know, it is unique and it is niche, but it's such a rewarding profession. And I think, I believe that society doesn't take property managers as seriously or in high respect or regard as they should.
Right.
And I'm pretty loud, and there's some other trainers that are loud on that. You know, we're one of the only industries that we're constantly getting asked to reduce fees. Right. We're constantly getting pretty much beaten up by the media, whether that's the news or renters. And it's really a challenging role. You know, we're lawyers, we're counsellors, we're tradesmen. We are navigating two-way relationships. It's not just our clients are our landlords, which I know we'll talk about, but we're dealing with so many different moving parts every single day. Yes. But what I really think the best performing property managers or property management businesses that I know, they make their service around the people. So it's not just this is our business model and this is what we do. It's what does our clients or consumers want from us, and how can we create that experience and that value for our clients. The other thing that's massive is problem solving. Every single day, problem solving. Something that generally will be happening, whether that's got to do with maintenance or rent arrears, or God forbid a renter has left the property and, you know, there's just, excuse my language, but shit everywhere. Yeah, they're the things that people are having to deal with, you know. Renters and rental providers' expectations have changed. So we need to just go, okay, cool. But guess what, Ingrid? Society expectations have changed. It's not just in our profession, it's just in general. So I think problem solving is a big one. Also, communication skills. The number one reason why someone tends to leave a business is because of lack of communication. So communication is huge, and I don't think that AI can replicate that. I don't feel like it's a threat to the property management profession, because people still want to have that personal experience. And when you're talking to clients that they've got $1 million properties or hundreds of thousands of their hard-earned money invested in a property, I don't really think they're going to leave their properties up to AI to deliver that high level of service. So, and then the other part as well, Ingrid, is having that IQ and that EQ. So we can be smart, right, and continue to learn and develop, but it's having that, I would say, compassionate or empathetic side to someone's situation, because like you said, right now there's so much going on in the, I would say, property industry in general, like housing industry, real estate, the rental industry. Like there's so many different things happening, and you have to be able to have the awareness of what's going on in the economy and in the marketplace to be able to relate to what's happening, because every single one of us is going to be experiencing that in a different way right now.
Absolutely. A couple of things you've said there, I want to explore a little bit further. I know you've alluded to some of the qualities that really good property managers possess. So I'll come back to that and we'll do a bit more of a deeper dive on that. But I just want to come back for a moment, because down where I am on the Mornington Peninsula, it's almost like every second business is a real estate agency. If you go down just the street down into Mount Eliza, I think there's 10, you know, in a 500 metre, you know, radius of each other, alongside hairdressers and tradespeople. I mean, it just seems to be that's what people do down here. So there's a real kind of kudos that's given to real estate agents, but not necessarily to property managers. Why do you think that is? I know you're out to break that, to smash that perception, but why do you think that people maybe gravitate towards real estate, might find themselves in property management, but not necessarily go seeking to be a property manager?
I think because typically, Ingrid, your real estate businesses and your sales agents are louder and more visible than property managers.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And it's changing, but a lot of property managers have just had this perception that I'm just a property manager, when it's not. You're just a property manager. Like, I've had a very fulfilling career of starting as just a property manager. Yeah. And it's them having the confidence that actually these are all the things that I do, and I want to be loud about that, because again, I am making a difference to someone's life.
Yes.
Right. So I think real estate is very much about property, Ingrid. Yeah.
Yes.
And around that, like, look at the paper. Every weekend you'll have a whole section, and it's, what is it? Just about property. Yeah. A whole section. It's not about the people. It's just about the property, showing off the properties. And also, when we think about wealth creation, as a society, typically people will invest in property.
Right.
Real estate. But property management is more of the human connection side, the people side. So where we are dealing with every day the people who have invested in those properties or live in those properties. And now I'm finding that we're getting there. It's going to take some time,
Yes.
but more and more people are starting to talk about what we actually do in the property management profession. You'll realize that I'm not using that word industry because I really
Yes.
truly believe we are a profession. Yeah.
Okay, I'll
And
start to use that today too.
yeah,
Yes.
becoming more visible. So now you're seeing in the news, they are talking about more things that property managers are facing on a day to day. Yeah. So there's a lot of things different moving parts, but I think it's
Yes.
just society. Especially we're talking about Vic, Vic love their coffee and real estate. And typically that's just houses. We want to look at all of the beautiful houses, and especially where you are, Ingrid, the houses there are quite amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. They're lovely.
And that's what it is. But then when we start talking about the nitty gritty stuff, the stuff that really happens, like there'd be so many stories and horrific stories that people don't see that property managers are facing every single day.
So I've been in the position of being a landlord and a renter. So I've kind of seen both sides of what great property managers can be versus some very, very average ones. When you're working with people talking about business development from a property management perspective, what are some of the things or the aspects that differentiate just an average property manager from someone like yourself who really sees it as a career, who knows that they can grow a portfolio, who knows that they can add significant wealth to the proprietor of that real estate firm?
Yeah. Well, where do I start? Okay, so if I use myself as an example,
Yep.
it's having, first of all, you got to back yourself, I think. So again, comes back to you. So it's not necessarily, you might not be confident, but aligning yourself with the right business, I think, is very important too, and the people in your environment, because that can have a very huge impact and effect on how you do show up on a daily basis and where your career trajectory will go. So I think it's been very clear on why are you in this industry? Like, what do you love about working in this industry? Because now a lot of property management businesses, we have remote assistants, right? So they don't have to do a lot of the administration work, which is typically a lot of property managers don't want to do the admin. They want to be out there meeting and talking with people. So it's like,
Right.
cool, you're in it because you love meeting people and talking to people. Why? Right?
Yeah.
What aspects of it? Is it you love dealing with the investors, or is it that you really get fulfillment on helping renters find their dream home, right?
Yeah.
Or do you love problem solving, so you're okay to do the maintenance aspect? There's all of these different hats that you can wear inside property management, and I think it's just going back to what do you love about it and why are you here? That's the first thing. And the high performers, they are clear on why they are in the industry, what they love about still working in the industry. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think the other thing is investing in your own development. So there are so many events now, trainers, a lot of franchises and businesses will do their own training. But I think it's, for me, when I started investing outside of the industry, in my own coaches, own mentors, did kinesiology and things like that, that's when it took things to a whole nother level, right? So when you are actually investing in something yourself, well, that's the investment. You show up, you do the work. So I think that's the other thing, is having that continuous development and having a mentor. Like, I always have a coach and a mentor, and because it's dependent on where I am. Yeah. I think also having great organizational skills
Yep.
is important. So when it comes to your, time management, when it comes to, where you're getting the most ROI for your time too, especially in the sales role as well. That's really important. And then, going back to that communication side, Ingrid, right now where we're seeing a pivot is we're going from having property managers to property advisors. Okay, so it's not just you collect rent, you do the routine inspections. It's how can I add more value to my clients every year? Okay, because they want more from that. And again, this is going back to what I was saying, that property managers don't get enough credit because we know the market, so we can educate our clients and attract more clients because we know what's happening in our marketplace. So that's what is happening. There's a big movement and you'll continue to see it. We're not just property managers, we are, property advisors, because it's our profession.
Right, property advisors. I hadn't heard that term. I mean, I think that property advisors, property managers are beautifully placed. So while we're talking, so just to summarise those points there. So you said the really high performers have a really clear why. They know why they're in the industry, why they're in the profession, that they're continually investing in their own development, that they've got great organisational skills. You talked about, that they have a good return on investment of their time. I love that phrase, return on time invested, focusing on high value, high return tasks. High communication skills. They're able to advise their clients on the property industry. So I might actually jump around to a question on the market. I was going to leave that till a little bit later, but we'll come back to the other ones. At the moment, property, whether it's real estate or property managers, property advisors, are saying that the market's right-sizing itself. We've had inflated prices, they're coming back down. In Victoria, there's a lot of new taxes as well that are affecting property owners, and many, especially down, the Mornington Peninsula, many owners are selling their properties because of those new taxes, which could mean that prices might go down again because there'll be, a lot of stock on the market. From your vantage point, what challenges will landlords and tenants face in the next 2 years? And coming back to that role of property advisors, what's their role in helping them to navigate that tricky terrain?
Yeah, I mean, poor Victoria has just copped it the last 4 years, and I have my belief on that, and that's heavily directed at our government, Ingrid. There's just I think everyone's looking to point a finger at someone, and like I was saying before, renters or society are pointing the finger at landlords and property managers, like, well, you're just going to put the prices up for rent because, interest rates have gone up, or land tax. And it's like, well, to be able to hold their investment property, they do need to increase the rent. It's not a majority of people negatively gearing their properties anyway, Ingrid, right? They're not making money right now.
That's right.
And, I don't think it should be viewed as a negative thing if someone has worked hard, they've saved their money, and they're contributing to providing shelter for someone, but they also have an investment. They strategically have placed their hard-earned money, because when it comes to retirement, they don't want to live off the pension, which we're all paying for right now anyway. Like, it just blows my mind that people don't understand that concept, right? Or anyway, you can tell I'm get fired up talking about this. Get passionate about this.
Yes.
So I think what we'll see is, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get any better for our rental market.
Okay.
I think in terms of the housing market, I think it's going to create more opportunities for first homeowners, because they, interest rates are already coming down. We're already seeing some of the big banks reducing their interest rates. They've predicted next year the same thing's going to happen. So, that'll be the case. First homeowners will have first priority because they don't have to worry about capital gains tax. They don't have to worry about compliance. They don't have to worry about minimum standards. Our government actually wants to introduce more changes to our legislation this year, and if that happens, like, there's going to be war, Ingrid. Like landlords are just going to be like, nah, this isn't enough. And if we already haven't seen a big exodus of rental providers in the market, like Victoria I'm talking about, it more and more will happen. So I think rents will continue to go up, though, because it's supply and demand. That's just how it works. They will continue to go up. And unfortunately, that means that there will not be enough housing for, I don't want to say low income earners, but, the different people who aren't earning really, really good money, right? Because we've got a certain affordability calculator that we use when it comes to seeing if a tenant can essentially afford the property. And if it is anything that doesn't match that, it's a risk, essentially. And the job of a property manager or property advisor is to minimize the risks for the rental providers. So right now what we are seeing, though, is the property managers are advising landlords, so having these conversations and talking about their goals. And, have you looked at your interest rate? Have you done a tax depreciation report? Are there things that we can do to help you maximize a return on investment? Like, when was the last time you spoke to your financial advisor? Like, I spoke to a wealth production company last week about my investment property, because I'm like, okay, what's my options if I was to sell it now versus I hold it right now? What's the pros versus cons? And they're the conversations that we're having actively within our market to go, okay, how can we have these conversations to educate and add value so that perhaps we can help our clients hold properties, right? The other thing that we're seeing is a big focus on our tenant relationships.
Right.
So the communication, the value pieces in property management is going to ensure that our renters are satisfied, and also help ensuring that those renters are long-term renters, because it benefits them to stay. It benefits landlords if they've got tenants that stay longer as well.
That's right.
And then doing proactive property management. So a shout out to someone I know, her name's Ashley Goodchild. She's in WA, but we talk about, she does hers is called property profiling, a service.
Okay.
I call it investor support services. So essentially this service is buyer advisors will work with the buyer, and they'll typically, help them get into the market or, negotiate with a sales agent. But they aren't talking to renters every day, right? So they don't know, well, what renters are looking for, and, well, what was the place down the road? Why did it rent so quickly? Or what was it about that? So we're seeing now the space that property managers are in is they can really be the ones providing that value in their marketplaces on, this is a great time to buy. This property is a good property to buy. This is why. Yeah. So that's when that advisory side comes to play more. And I remember as a property manager at BDM, so many times you'd have landlords spend millions of dollars on a property, and then they've settled on a property. They go, okay, let's work with a property manager. And they have no idea what their property is going to rent for. And then they go, oh, is that it? So that's where there's big opportunities there still.
Yes, it's really interesting. All of the things that you're talking about, property managers moving into that more advisory type role, really they're a trusted advisor that needs to understand, their customers' goals, financial goals, lifestyle goals, some of their challenges, their education, so that they can offer or meet that customer where they're at. I want to combine a couple of questions together here. I define a customer, some people would say it's a stakeholder, as anyone that we deliver measurable value to, which is much broader than just, the person that buys a good or a service, from us. Who do you think, or who should property managers or advisors treat as customers who matter? And what's the role of building out a network in growing that customer base across
Yeah.
all of the definition of customer?
Well, it goes hand in hand, right? Because essentially we're talking about having, first of all, businesses to grow. I believe that they need brand ambassadors, so people who are on board and believe in the brand, the values, the mission,
Love it.
everything that they're about.
Yes.
And also having an ecosystem. So your ecosystem in property management is, yes, it's your property owners and your landlords, but it's also purchasers. So we just
Yes.
discovered, people who are looking to get into the market. You've got your renters, your renters, tenants.
Yes, yeah.
You've got vendors, so even people who are looking to sell,
Yeah.
right? And then they might become a renter. So we want to
Yeah.
be putting ourselves out there and working with those people.
Yep.
You've also got other real estate agents. It's really important in our industry that you continue to build those strong referral networks and offer support between different marketplaces
Yeah.
and share market insights, because
Yeah.
what we're seeing, and typically in Australia right now, is that we've got investors who've got properties in different states, right? So you might live in Victoria, but you'll have an investment property in WA, but you'll also have an investment property in Queensland. So you need to branch out, the partnerships with other real estate agents. You've got then your colleagues and your team members in your office. That's part of your ecosystem.
Yes.
Your community, local businesses,
Beautiful.
neighbors. Oh
Yep.
my goodness, so many people overlook this. And one of my best producing videos that I did as a BDM was actually about, do you know your neighbors?
Yeah.
I did a video. And it's very overlooked. And I still think there's a big opportunity for property managers. It's, if you're leasing or listing a property, like go and see the neighbours in that street, make yourself familiarised to them. And that's bringing that community aspect in there as well. But like my neighbour next door, Gary, God love him, he mows our lawns for us, right? But
Gotta
if I
love
didn't
Gary.
know Gary, he wouldn't mow my lawns. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Get to know your neighbours. And there's just small things that we can do to get involved. Like go and sponsor someone in your community, like
Yes.
Rotary clubs, or,
Yes.
go and work a couple of hours and put some sausages on a barbecue.
Yeah, that's
Like
right.
simple things that we can do.
Yeah.
Then it's referral partnerships or stakeholders. So typically in property management, you've got like mortgage brokers, conveyancers,
Yep.
accountants, your buyer advisors, building and pest inspectors. There's a massive list of people. But by establishing those relationships with referral partners, you expand the value offering
Yes.
through your network, right?
Yeah.
And together you enhance then your education pieces, and you're growing and learning the same time as you're helping someone else or their business learn and grow at the same time. Right?
And you're able to deliver a better service then to not only to the landlords but also to the tenants too, because you've built that rich ecosystem. So as soon as they have like if you love to be a problem solver, like you mentioned before, I mean this is critical to that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You're expanding your network, you're providing more value, providing more education, and in turn you're going to drive more business.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I just think associations. So in real estate or property management, we're very lucky that we have some great organisations that support our industry. So it's getting involved in those associations, and really staying informed and making sure that you're up to date with legislation and the best practices. So pretty big ecosystem that we have.
It's a big ecosystem. So I'm just going to be the voice of some of those little property managers who might be sitting in the back listening to Sarah going, oh my gosh, so we've got brand ambassadors, we've got purchasers, landlords, renters, vendors, real estate agents, colleagues in my office. I've got referral partners like brokers. I've got the tradespeople. I've got pest inspectors. I've got banks. I've got my neighbours. I've got the community. I can sponsor. I can donate my time. Sarah, where am I going to get all this extra time to build these relationships when I've got a target that I've got to hit every month, and I've got all of this stuff, and I'm in VCAT every second, What would be and this kind of goes right back, we talk about spirals, goes right back to our original conversation about, that next level of growth and identifying, how you want to really grow your career.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to that property manager who's going, how am I meant to do all of this?
Typically, Ingrid, they don't. And that's why a lot of businesses have a BDM, because when you put it like when we pull it apart like that, right?
Yeah.
Like you just did,
Yes.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're managing a portfolio, let's just say of 150 properties,
Right.
You're not just managing 150 properties, you've got landlords of 150, which you've probably got 2 owners per property. So straight away, bang, that's 300 people.
Yes.
Right? Then you've got your tenants, and now per household, you've probably got another 2 tenants per household. So that's 600 people just there that you are managing on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Now you tell me how you have the capacity to then really focus on the growth of a business.
Yeah, that's right.
You can do it organically, and that would be, essentially you can work with your current clients, which are your trades as a property manager, would be your trades, your team, your landlords, and your tenants. They would be the 4. And you could manage that, right? And you could grow pretty good, but not scale, right? But the businesses who want to scale and really grow, they will have a BDM to work that ecosystem every single day, because they are not having to manage 600 relationships a day.
Yes.
It'll be their database, their pipeline, but apart from that, they are working their ecosystem.
Yeah, right. That's fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating.
So your question though was, if I'm a property manager and you're wanting to evolve in your career, then I would be looking at a couple of options they can do as a hybrid role. So whereas they have a smaller portfolio,
right,
and they grow that to a certain amount, and then they offload or essentially properties again to someone else, and they continue that model, right?
Okay.
That's a discussion essentially with their directors on if that's something that they want to do. The other model that I'm seeing, Ingrid, is property managers actually being a partner in a business. So whether that's shares, equity, or being a partner. So that, again, they will be responsible for that growth, but they have a buy-in to the business. And I think we are seeing more and more of that now. Or you sit down with your director and you have a plan or a goal and say, if I keep bringing in organic growth, within 3 to 6 months, would I be able to let go of that portfolio and step into business development?
Yes.
And many of my clients have done that. They've started as just PM. They've gone PM, BDM, your hybrid model.
Okay.
Then they've dropped the portfolio, and then they've moved into business development. And then from there, you could then have if you wanted to be more of a leader, you could have your own BDM team, depending on your growth, if that's something that you wanted to do. Or Ingrid, some of my clients, they ended up opening up their own businesses.
Yes, I can see a lot more of that, especially when you said, about the specialisation, and people kind of seeking out somebody who, that's their whole focus, that's their bread and butter. Yeah, that's exciting.
It's exciting. Yeah. It's a very fulfilling industry. And like I said, it's just, I think in any role that you have, I don't really like the word job, but any role that you have, it's what you make of it. If you love what you do, you're going to show up every day and you're going to love what you do.
Yes.
Right? If you're like, I don't really like this, well, maybe it's not the role that you should be in, or perhaps the profession that you should be in. And that's just being honest with ourselves too. I would rather sit down with myself and really ask myself these questions
Yes.
and go and do what I love, then a lifetime goes by and you're like, what have I done? You know,
Yeah.
I don't really love what I do.
That's exactly right. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of roles, you're about to go into one of the biggest roles of your life, aren't you? You're about to have a baby in 3 weeks' time, which is absolutely beautiful. Sarah, what's on the cards for Sarah Cincotta and Rise in the next 12 months?
Oh, okay. So, yes, I have got a game plan and my goals set
Why
for
does that not surprise me?
for next year. Look, my business, Ingrid, has had over 400% growth in the last 12 months.
Well done.
Thank you. So, and my word for this year was expansion.
Okay,
And
well,
I
you achieved
definitely,
that.
yes, I definitely achieved that. I don't have a
Yes.
word for next year next, but I am determined to be a boss, no, what I call it, a mumpreneur.
Mum. Okay.
And a lot of people have said, oh, well, how much time are you taking off? And I said, why do I need to take time off? Like there's that perception that, we have to just step away for a certain amount of time to nurture our child and to nurture, business or work. But my business is still like my baby, yeah? And I am very aware that I need to heal and my child's going to need my love and attention, but I've got a tribe around me, Ingrid,
Yes.
right? And I believe we don't have to do things alone. So
Right.
what's next for me is, yes, I'm taking a little step back,
Yes.
not working as much as I am at the moment, but I've
Yep.
got a team now, which I'm really excited about.
Yes.
And it's now looking at diversifying
Right.
is the next step.
That
So
might be your word, diversify.
diversifying, yeah. So typically, with what I do, it's I deliver the service. So I do my keynote speaking. I have to deliver my training. I have to
Yes.
deliver my workshops, which is great, and I love that.
Yes.
However, I'm also mindful that I'm going to have a little baby with me.
That's right.
So yeah, I think next year is definitely diversifying, and to be honest, it's my value. So now I am in a space where prices are going up, Ingrid.
Yep.
Right? Like you got to start somewhere, and when you're positioning yourself, I think you need to test the market and see the value, the service, but also that credibility needs to come. And I've worked really hard the last 2 years to position myself very much niched into the profession.
Yes.
So it's looking at, I don't need more necessarily. It's just working with what I have
Yes.
and ensuring that the level of service I provide is continuing to increase, as well as my value is continuing to increase as well. So that's what's on cards for next 12 months for Rise.
Well, I don't doubt that. I just cannot wait to watch what happens with Sarah Cincotta and Rise. And I don't know, would you want to come back on and do another interview maybe in 6 months' time?
I would love to. Let's see how the mumpreneur is going.
I have no doubt that, like everything that you do, you will see an opportunity there, and you'll do this to the best of your ability as well. And I just wish you every happiness with
Thank
the
you.
birth of this little one.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that.
Pleasure. Okay, you've been listening to The Sales Revolution. I'm Ingrid Maynard. And to find out how the Sales Doctor can help your organisation to transform its revenue, growth and profit, please email me at ingrid@thesalesdoctor.com.au. Visit us on our website at www.thesalesdoctor.com.au. I look forward to your company next episode. Bye for now.